lately there's been a lot of conversation about how fighting games are becoming more and more expensive. We have games that come out like Get to Gear Strive. We have so many different forms of it, editions of it that you can get, ranging all the way up to like $100. Then already with like next gen systems, people are thinking like a lot of the games are going to go up in price anyway. But with fighting games specifically, you have the original game, whether it comes out in different editions. Then you have, the DLC that you have to download for the games, the season passes, the stage, the costumes, so many different things that they just keep releasing individually that you have to buy, to where it's like over the lifespan of a game, you can end up spending like almost $200+. How do you feel about, the way that these things are going as far as like the pricing of fighting games?
Well, I know that the first thing I have to say is that Street Fighter 2 is probably the culprit of this. It's the start of it. I had to put my serious glasses on real quick to talk about this. Street Fighter 2 is it's the grandfather of this. Let's be honest. Street Fighter 2, Hyper Fighting, Ultra Fighting, high in the air fighting, Championship Edition, High School Edition. Like
In the air
it
fighting.
was it was the game that started it all. So I feel like a lot of other developers they follow suit, and it's like it's the thing still. Like with Street Fighter 4, what we had, what maybe 4 or 5 editions of it. Street Fighter 5, pretty much the same thing. Like a lot of games are doing it. There's a few games that don't do it. Even Tekken used to not do it. Tekken kind of hopped on board. It's like kind of an ultimate-ish edition, I guess. But here's my thing. So yes, I agree. If you have a game, it's like all this stuff you gotta buy. New people gonna be like, man, I spent all that money. Like I was talking about earlier, like I spent all this money and I'm not even playing the game now. Or some people like I spent all this money and I'm getting destroyed. They're like, I don't want to win. I don't want to play because I'm losing. Now they just spent all this money. Um, I think when it comes down to it, like certain things are okay. Like Street Fighter Five, for example. Why are there so many costumes? Like it's cool to have the costumes, but man, it's almost like it's just kind of overkill. And I mean, the stuff is optional. It definitely is optional. Like for me, like I'll only buy a costume if something is like really dope. I'm like, oh, that's a really cool costume. I want that one. But I'm never gonna buy all the costumes. I mean, at this point, Chun Li got what she got like 30,000 costumes in Street Fighter Five,
Because she
and it's
deserves them.
almost just like it's like why just now, if they can do something like in-game currency, and this is one of the big things that the FTP, the free-to-play, they have in-game currency. Sometimes you can earn it through matches. It might take a while, but at least you have the option of earning that. I mean, Street Fighter 5 tried it, but it's like it was no point. It took so long. Like you giving me 50 fight money for a match, 50 fight money for a match when it takes 100,000 to buy a character. I can what so that's my thing. If you're gonna make me pay all this, at least maybe start implementing some type of like in-game currency that I can build up at a reasonable pace to be able to buy something in the game, where I'm not forced to just keep putting out real money on it. And again, it's a personal choice. If you want to buy it, that's up to you. Um, and again, like with Street Fighter 4, I think I put 1,600 hours in the Street Fighter 4, so you could definitely say I got my money's worth out of the game. I mean, I bought every version, so I definitely got my money's worth. But I feel like now it's becoming more of a marketing, a business trend. It's not like, oh, we're just gonna make these versions because we feel like the players want to see new things, new characters, new moves. It's like, oh, we know they're gonna buy this extra edition if we make this one, so let's just go ahead and keep some stuff under wraps. And then, hey, you want to buy this version? It's getting kind of out of hand. And I mean, with next gen coming up, what I think the games are gonna be like $10 more. That's gonna make that even worse, I guess. So I just wanted to be kind of at a fair balance. Don't just be knocking me out of the park because you know you can do it. Like, give me some stuff that's worth buying, but don't just be like, well, we're gonna just make it this price because we can and we know you're gonna buy it. So it's getting crazy out here, man. But I'm still buying the standard edition. Yeah.
It's funny. It's oh the serious glasses came off. Whew.
Yep.
It's hard because I hadn't really thought of it, but like most games are really doing this and following that structure, right? They're really kind of copying Street Fighter in that regard. And the comparison in my mind, and I know you guys are like, don't rail me for this, but I go back to my love, Uni. Like Under Night isn't, and it's hard to. And I'm like, oh, like this is what it must have felt like before. Where Under Night's like, yeah, our game is $40. If you want this extra character, it's $6. When we update it, which we're going to in a year, that's free. Okay, see ya. Bye. We'll talk to you later the next time we have an update, which is rollback. So, and it's like it's weird because it's like that's what most people probably expect, but Under Night's such like a brushed under the cover sort of game, whereas all these other big titles, right? Like that is kind of what they do. They're like, hey, here's a season pass. Hey, like we're gonna like essentially gatekeep you from all this stuff. Which again, like I'm kind of like, I don't know what it costs now to make a game. I don't know what it costs to like upkeep employees. I don't know what it costs to upkeep the game. I don't know what it costs to make new content. For what it's worth, I'd be curious to know, because that's one thing I found out about Street Fighter, to back to Devin's point. Like when I first started playing the game, I was like, wait, so this in-game currency is basically useless. Like I'm never gonna build up enough money to buy anything. Like what is this for? Like, and then again, I just bought Champion Edition, so I got everything anyways. So it's like, I do think one of the games that does it reasonably well is actually League of Legends, which is what I came from before I got into fighting games. And I think League does in-game currency and like real cash to in-game currency. I think they do both really well. And for some reason, I always, like, even though I'll pay for something, I never felt bad paying for like new skins. I never felt bad paying for like new characters if I wanted a new character. Obviously League of Legends is free to play, but I've dropped like a lot of money on it. I've dropped probably like $200 to $400 over the past couple of years on League of Legends. And so, but again, I never felt cheated. Free to play is kind of weird to me because on the one end, I think free to play is like, I think it's good for people to invest up front in like a game that they like. So Fantasy Strike is free, but like, I don't know that many people who play Fantasy Strike. And part of me wonders if more people would actually play it if they had paid like $20 for it or something like that, So I don't know. It's definitely a tough question, but I definitely agree with Devin that it's like, this is kind of the trend that we're seeing with most of the big titles. And it's like, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, if we as consumers keep buying it, I mean, they're not going to care. I mean, that's kind of all there is to it. So it's like, yeah, if you're just going to keep, which is hard because you don't want to be gatekept from your game, so you're going to keep buying it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, I guess you can just do this. So I don't know. It's a tough quandary.
Well, I kind of agree with both John and Devin. I think like, the whole in-game currency thing is, I think is a real big deal right now, especially like you were saying earlier about games going free to play, because that's like one of the more, like it's one of the most successful models they got going on right now. Like John was saying earlier about League of Legends. I just started playing League. It's funny because he started playing fighting games and I started playing League of Legends. So it's like, I'm going into League of Legends and there's all these characters. There's so many characters in the game, and you don't necessarily have to pay for any of them. The game kind of rewards you for playing the game daily, and it's not like 50 gold match like in like Street Fighter. It's you get a decent amount, especially if you win a match. And if there are pieces, like they give you pieces of different shards of different characters, and if you don't want that character, you just say, well, I don't want that character. Mm-hmm. You can repurpose that into currency that you can use to buy a character you want. There's a character that just came out a little while ago, Samira, and I had a little bit of what are they in the league? They have Essence, and I got a bunch of shards of characters I knew I didn't want to play with, so I just repurposed all of them into Essence, and I bought Samira. Now I got one of the newest characters. She hasn't even been out for like a month yet, mm-hmm. And she just dropped a little while ago. So, and she's kind of broken too. But anyway, I kind of like the idea of the whole in-game currency thing, especially now the way games are coming out. We have all these different new and different fighting games. You got Guilty Gear Strive coming out. I mean, eventually we're going to be moving on to like games like Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6 and stuff. We're going to have a completely new game to deal with, and it's going to be up to the developers to decide how they want to distribute the characters at this point. I mean, are you going to keep doing what you've been doing with DLC? I mean, you can, but people aren't just generally aren't happy about it. They're just not happy. People, there's nothing wrong with like letting people work for the characters. Like back in the old days, if you wanted a character, they were all locked, and you had to unlock them over time. You know, I mean, I kind of want to go back to doing that. I'll pay like 50, like $60 for, like I said before, I'll pay $60 if all the characters are in the game, and then maybe I can just unlock them through in-game currency or something like that. Or, you know, like I said, just do free to play, like with League of Legends, and just let me unlock them through the in-game currency that way. And if I want to spend money, let me spend money. Especially when, like everybody says, like the end game for almost every game is high fashion. And
yeah.
And so, I mean, in League of Legends, I spent money on costumes. I'm not afraid to admit it. I have spent money on costumes. It keeps me invested, you know. And I think like if you only have to pay like $5 or $10 for 2 costumes that are going to keep you playing the game and let you have fun, if that one thing will let you have fun, then go ahead and let me spend money on it. But I don't know if I want, like, if like, especially if there's a character that I want in the next DLC, but like the season pass has 3 other characters that I really don't want or I'm not interested in, you know, I'd really much prefer to just let me earn the in-game currency and let me buy that character. I don't really like spending money like that. I will if I have to, but I'd rather not.
I want to say something real quick to what you just said, to what Evan said about unlocking characters. I do think they should go back to that. I don't think the last time we saw it was like maybe like really implemented with Street Fighter 4. You had to unlock most of the characters, and it gives you something to do. You know, it's like, okay, I can unlock the characters, and it always felt like something. It was fun. Like Alpha 3, unlocking the characters, like trying to get Evil Ryu and Gal. Man, that was some of the most fun and stressful stuff. But it was like so rewarding, like fighting those secret bosses and stuff like that. Which it was weird that Gal was a secret character, but They brought Charlie in, which he was like the original Sonic Boomer. So it was like, oh, well, Gal was actually the guy that came after this dude. So that was kind of interesting to see that type of stuff. I will say though, I feel like with MK right now, it's like with this new combat pack, 2, and I thought it would be 3 because I would thought they were doing the characters from Aftermath was like the second combat pack technically. So it's like they kind of confused me a little bit, and I feel like this combat 2 came out pretty fast after Aftermath. Aftermath wasn't that long ago, so I'm like, y'all could have maybe put all these characters in Aftermath, right? And I feel like because a lot of people were talking about Aftermath, like, man, it's like $40. So I feel like honestly, if they had to put Melina, Rain, and Rambo, and along with those characters, like 6 characters, that would have been a justified price. Mm-hmm. So now we're getting the Ultimate, and then is there going to be like Ultimate Extra Ultra after that? So you know, and again, I agree with Octavian the fact that these games, they don't just work off fairy dust. They don't just like throw some fairy dust in the air and then the games are made. So and especially now with like how advanced technology has gotten, like back in the day, you know, I mean, things were actually, if you look at it comparatively, some of these things back in the day was still pretty expensive because like I remember like some of the Neo Geo, like the home console, the cartridge was like $200. And if you think about it, it's kind of crazy. Like the cartridge was like this big, and it was like $200. And it's like when I found it, I'm like, there were really games that expensive back then. Even some of the other systems, I'm like, I didn't know they were that expensive. I always thought as a kid, like all these systems, Nintendo was like $100, $150. I'm like, oh, they were actually like $2 and $3 back then. Yeah. It's just it's a different time. But I will say, I do feel like that the core luster of gaming is kind of fading away, and it's like with fighting games now, you don't have to unlock characters because I feel like developers like, well, we can just give it to them in DLC, they'll buy it. But it's like a lot of gamers, like, they just want to have that effort and play for the characters and unlocking themselves. And one last comment. I know you don't like costumes, Octavian, but man, some costumes will make you want to play a character. If they put a Leon Kennedy skin in Street Fighter 5, I just might play the game again. Right now, I'm not playing it, but if they do a Leon Kennedy like RE4 skin, I'm playing it. I don't care if it's Blanca that got this skin. I'm playing the game. I almost came back to play it because they put Virgil. They put a Nero, Virgil, and Dante skin in Street Fighter 5. I almost came back for that. Almost. That's the key word. Almost. But they almost for Wesker. Almost played for Wesker. But they put a Leon skin. I might have to play. I have to play, man.